are back as promised. The next edition of the Rice Football Blue and Gray preview show. I'm your host, Matthew Bartlett of The Roost, joined by JP Heath, the voice of the Owls, both back from eventful trip to New York, the city, West
New
Point.
York.
Thoughts on the surroundings first?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be. I had not been before. This has got to be top 5 places to go take in a college football game. It was gorgeous.
People ask me all the time. I forget if I said this on the broadcast, but hey, what's your favorite place to go? Like, what's your favorite sport to call? You know, and I give them this diplomatic answer. But my first, second, and third, and fourth favorites, all tied for first, are the 4 times I've been to Michie Stadium, and I was really glad to. That you came on the trip because it lives up to the billing, doesn't it? It's just majestic. I mean, you can't have much of a better setting than you had there. Outside the game, you'd rather have a better result, but that's
right. Yeah. If beggars can be choosers, we would take Rice wins in addition to pretty surroundings, but did not get that this week. Let's just get through our quick thoughts on that before we turn our attentions to, I know the football team has already, turned the corner, is talking Charlotte, but quick thoughts on the Army thing. I'll offer mine first. The one thing that could not happen on Saturday was to fall behind early. And man, just in trying to evaluate the rest of this game, it's kind of tricky because Rice fell behind early. And I liked how Mike Bloomgren said after the game, we got armied, because that's kind of exactly how it happened. 5 plays in the first quarter, and you just could not get back the football. And this team is not a team that can play catch up. Is it any more complicated than that from your eyes? Because that's kind of how it looked like when I watched this game.
No, you're, as usual, we're simpatico there. The game killer, or I don't know, it wasn't over at that point, but what let me know it was business was the 95-yard drive that took this off the top of the noggin, 17 plays, 95 yards, and what
10
was
hours.
that? 10 hours of real time. So that you're down 2 scores in a game like that, when we knew going into the week you're getting max 8. If you're lucky, 9 possessions. And it also started at the very first. There wasn't the discipline you'd like with the.
I was pulling my hair out, man.
Yeah, the procedure penalty. You have 2 number 26s. So I'm like, I was telling Nate, I said this on air for full record. This isn't me going back. Right. And I think people know I love these guys so much. But I was like, you can't have that in that situation. And it didn't snowball there from necessarily, but those that were there saw it and watched it and heard it. Hopefully on my end, got the clicks, but it just they were chasing the whole night, afternoon, and it started with the procedure and then went from there. And then the missed punt in the second half, but that long drive is what sealed it in my mind. Looking back at it, at the time I knew there was hope, but looking back, that's what the clincher was.
Yeah, just no margin for error, and they used all of it in the first 10 minutes, it felt like. With that, you had the too many men on the huddle on 3rd down on Rice's first offensive possession that turned a 3rd and 3 to a 3rd and 8. And Rice had been moving the ball pretty well up until that point, and I was like, okay, this offense is rolling. So, but that killed it, man. And you can't have that. And I don't know, live to fight another day. That you got armied and you can't go back and undo it. The only thing that you can do is beat Charlotte. Cause I don't know can we just not do the show if we're sitting here at 1-4 and having to talk about another tough game. We're not going to quit on you guys, but man, there are some times where this is easier to sit up and do than others. Is that fair?
Yeah, but we're pros, I think we do it either way.
Pros.
Yeah. It makes it easier after wins. Everything's happy, hunky dory, but you don't like talking about uncomfortable things, in this essence, a loss. And we're waiting on our guest, Matt Swearad, buddy from Charlotte's radio network, to join us here in a matter of moments. But I did want to give a shout out to Mama Piercy, the Piercy clan. Josh ran into them almost literally walking, how the hills, the undulating terrain there. I was done with my pregame chat with Bloom.
Undulating terrain. This is a
right
race show.
You were there. That was undulating, right? Because it's like
accurate. Yeah.
You
Hills.
go
We don't
uphill
have
both
that in
ways.
Houston, but
yeah, not much of that.
But it was there.
But Mama Piercy says she watches every week. I talked to the Morrison family. It was neat seeing the Piercys. And she actually told me Josh came really close to going to Army, and it broke their heart when Josh didn't go there. The Army heart was broken. The family obviously was really happy he was coming to Rice. So I thought that was that was an extra tidbit. But shout out everybody watching, and comment and share all that good stuff. But we've got Matt here, I think. Hey, Matt, you there?
Yeah.
How are you doing? We have a black screen. Is that okay? Or
let's see here.
That is not Matt there.
I'm not sure
Matt's
why. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you on the audio side.
Yeah, not sure why you got a blank screen, but I'm sorry. I'm technically inept, so I apologize.
That's it's very metaphoric, with the way both of our team seasons have gone, and yeah, we're the audio dorks, so you can't expect us to have this video stuff working out too, right?
Yeah, no, and I don't see any of my things blocked off here, mic, camera, all that stuff. So I'm not sure what I did, but I probably did something.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. I'm going to put the spotting board up here in a little bit. That'll take away from some of it, but. Yes, this is Matt. He is not Mike Shy, but I guess take us through the early part of the season. We've got a third of the season behind us. You had the wild finish against Gardner-Webb, the tough competition up in the P4 level. Just what's the story of the season been so far?
Injuries has been our big story. We played pretty well against James Madison for – I'd say 3 quarters and then 5 minutes of the fourth quarter until they just got defense was just worn out. And JMU just kind of ran the ball down our throat that last quarter, scored a couple of touchdowns, and the score looked worse than it was. We made some mistakes in that game. Turnovers hurt at key times. And I think just some undisciplined penalties really kind of came back and bit them. And then, you go to Chapel Hill, and we just we battled and, again, had a lot of injuries. Lost our quarterback, Max Brown, late in the second quarter. Deshaun Purdy came in, did a good job. But defensively lost a bunch of guys. Stone Handy, Prince Wallace Beamer, one of our linebackers, and some other guys too. So that was really the first, couple of weeks, injuries getting to us. Then Gardner-Webb, going into that, we were like, okay, one of two things is going to happen, because Deshaun Purdy was named the starting quarterback. When he came into the second half against North Carolina, he was just thrown out there. So there wasn't time to think about it and get nervous and how am I going to play? He just went out and played football and did a good job. Mm-hmm. But when he had to prepare for the game, we thought one of two things would happen. He'd be terrific like he was in the second half against North Carolina, or he'd look like a true freshman that makes mistakes. And that's unfortunately what happened. Turned the ball over 3 times. There was a pick 6, couple of big fumbles. And then he got hurt. So then he had to leave the game with an ankle injury. And that's when they turned to, Trexler Ivy, who had been a starter a little bit last year, former walk-on. And he led us back with 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns. And they survived to get a win against Gardner-Webb. 1-point win. And then, last week we go to Indiana and just got steamrolled. Trexler started. It wasn't the offense. The offense was hanging around. The defense, one of the worst defensive performances I think we've seen under this coaching staff. Indiana, who's very talented, and Coach Sig, who came from James Madison, took a lot of his players with him. They've kind of loaded up in Bloomington. I think that team's going to be pretty competitive in the Big Ten. Well, they scored their first 7 possessions, and before they took their their quarterback, Curtis Rourke, out of the game, I think they could have kept scoring. They might have put 60 or 70 on us. And it was just one of those afternoons where the defense couldn't get out of their own way. And at that point, the offense just in the second half couldn't keep up. And it was a long, long day for the 49ers in Bloomington. So that's where we're sitting at 1-3. And kind of like you all were searching for answers, trying to get healthy and hoping this game can be one of those turning points to get the season pointed back in the right direction. If it doesn't go Charlotte's way, they could be really looking at a tough, tough run here.
And you mentioned Trexler Ivy a little bit. I wanted to ask you about him because he was at the helm when these two teams played a season ago, and it did not go very well for the 49ers. Mike Bloomgren was pretty complimentary of him in his midweek press conference, talking about his growth. What did you kind of see from him in that come from behind win at Gardner against Gardner Webb, and kind of what's the outlook for the offense with him and no Max Brown available, presumably?
Yeah, and that's well, first of all, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. We're not getting any indication. I've heard Max doesn't have a cast on his hand anymore. I've heard Purdy's walking around. And, of course, you got Trexler, who started last week. For Trexler, he's made, I think, tremendous strides from last year to this year. He stayed with the program. So many players now just looking for an opportunity to go somewhere else and play. They recruited over him not once but twice, the players they brought in. But he stayed, and that quarterback room, they're very tight. They get along. They pull for each other. And when he got the opportunity against Gardner Webb, you saw the maturity of a guy who's been there before, but yet he took the whole offseason to get better. He knows the playbook more. They trust him more. And I even said to my partner, Al Wallace, I think his fastball had a little bit more zip on it, too. He was running the offense like a guy that was in control and brought us back against Gardner Webb. And he ran the offense fine last week, too. Didn't do anything wrong against Indiana, but they were just too much for us. So I think when you look at him, he is better than he was a year ago. How much more time he gets this year to play, I don't know. If those two guys are healthy, I think, unfortunately, he's not going to play. But they certainly have a guy they can go to in an emergency that's going to certainly not hurt the situation.
Tell us about the skill positions. In the past, you all have been really deep at wide receiver and Hurt Rice. I mean, I go back, was at the 16 or 17 game. You had the last time you were here, you had a good running game as well. But I recognize some familiar names, and I see Kelman there at the top of the running back chart. But so kind of a combo question. What's been the highlight that you've seen from the receiving core and the guys in the backfield?
The backfield really, until this last week, has not produced much at all. I think they had their best game against Indiana. The offensive line did a really nice job. Teron Kelman's been hurt. He got hurt against North Carolina, hasn't played since. His status for Saturday, I believe, is probably going to be he's not going to play again. Cartavius Norton, who's an Iowa State transfer, he had his best game as a 49er at Indiana. Ran the ball hard. He's not a speed guy. He's more of that, bruiser, find a hole and get you 5 to 6 yards. We lost C.J. Stokes in that game to a season-ending shoulder injury. He's going to have surgery out for the year. He's a Michigan transfer. He's been the guy who was banged up in camp, finally got healthy, was running the ball well last couple of weeks, and now he's out for the year. Hassan Wilson is probably the most steady of the backs we have right now that are still healthy. And then you have Henry Rutledge. Henry's the X factor because he's tiny, but he's so fast. And the thing with Henry, if you can get him the ball in space, he is so electric and fun to watch. Very elusive, hard to bring down. He's our, return guy in the kickoff game. He's been very good in that aspect of the game. But now they're really starting to get him more involved in the offense. They got him moving on the outside, trying to get him the ball at the flat. Had a nice touchdown run at North Carolina, getting the ball out in the flat on the left side and getting the sideline and going down the sideline for a touchdown in Chapel Hill. So he's pretty explosive. He's fun to watch. Our tight ends are terrific. Colin Weber, Bryce Kennan, Jay Clemens, those guys are just sensational. They want to go to him a lot. And then the wideouts, Jairus Mack is a returning wide receiver, led us in receiving yards last year. He has been really dynamic. He's already had a 100-yard receiving game. But the guy to watch really is Sean Brown. Here's a kid that was a walk-on, went to UNC Pembroke Division II. His dream was to play D1 football.
Wow.
He's from Charlotte. He was working multiple jobs as a walk-on, just trying to, make money to stay on campus. And finally, his parents said going into this year, which is his senior season, if you don't get a scholarship, we can't afford to keep you there. It's just not going to happen. And he actually got a scholarship. And I'll tell you what, he's made some catches that we see on Sundays, not on Saturdays. And there's been NFL scouts that watch this kid like, wow, he's pretty special. His story it's amazing. And hopefully it continues for him. He's been a lot of fun to watch. But, Isaiah Myers on the outside with Mack and Omega Blake, two guys that, in addition to Mack, have been, pretty big in the passing game for us for the tight ends. There's some young guys, too, that are trying to get involved. I think overall, this might be our deepest receiving core ever in our young history. Maybe not that standout star like a DeBose or, I'm thinking of a couple other guys that were really good when you just put them out there by themselves. Austin Duke, you go back to the start. There's been a few guys, Victor Tucker, a whole league player. But if you look at just the overall room, the wide receiver room, I think there's more talent collectively on this team than we've seen in the past.
And can I flip you over to the other side of the ball? Because that's honestly where I'm a bit more interested, because last year the Charlotte defense was pretty stout, probably the better side of the ball, at least for a good chunk of this season. Has it just been kind of injuries that have really hampered this group this year? What's kind of been the cause? It kind of seems like, at least from looking at the numbers, they've slid back. Or is that competition or what's going on here?
That's a great question, because last week, I think our defense was, the best part of our team last year. And last week, it might have been one of their worst games they've ever played. Injuries have played a part. We got some guys back last week, but, coach, the baseball term on a pitch count, they're not going the whole game. And just, making mistakes, not being in the right spot. That's something they got to clean up. I'm really curious to see what this week brings from last week to this week. Coach Osborne, who's the defensive coordinator, he's a no-nonsense guy. He's fun to watch the sidelines. He is extremely fiery, and I think he's a good coach. And he's got some players. Edge rusher for the Niners, Stone Handy's been hurt, came back last week, didn't really do anything. The Niners didn't get any pressure on Rourke last week. He just stood back there and played pitch and catch all day long. So can the Niners get some pressure on the Owls this week? That's going to be a question. Getting some guys back healthy. Linebacker Prince Wallace Bima came back last week but wasn't 100%. You hope to get him, back that 100% with Reed Williford, who's done a nice job for the Niners. And on the backside, Dante Balfour got hurt against North Carolina. Has been playing with a club on his hand. It's all wrapped up. So that's kind of hindered him a little bit. It's just, I think there's talent. There might be more talent on this defense we've had, again, collectively in the 11 years of football here, 12 years of football. But they're not playing like it right now. So we'll see, the next couple of weeks how they kind of clean up what happened last week. And you look at 4 games, we're giving up, almost 40 points a game on average. So that certainly has to improve if they're going to win some football games.
I was saving this nugget. I told Matthew before we went live, you guys' competition, I just saw the conference put out. I didn't think to look it up myself. We got to let other people do our homework, right, Matt? But you guys, FBS non-conference schedule, guys, your other opponent's schedule is 12-1 now. So, do you think we've seen the real Charlotte team? We've got the 1 week head start on you with conference play and took it on the chin up at Army. But with Biff Poggi in his second year, what does he say the identity of the team is? Because, now really is your second season starting here with a tough non-conference slate there.
Yeah, he's been very positive up until after the game against Indiana. He was very upset, not happy, called out the coaches and didn't really put it on the players. So this is, it's going to be a big week for him, big test. Can they go on the road and get a win? We we've got a tough stretch coming up. We got East Carolina at home, and we beat them at their place last year, first time we ever played them. And, that's going to become a rivalry that, picks up in the basketball and baseball rivalries that we've had. And they come in our place, they're going to want to get us, So if we can't find a way to win it at Rice, you might be looking at, some tough weeks in a row, and then can the coaching staff kind of keep everybody together? Right now, I think they're all saying the right things. They're all going out there and playing hard, but at some point, it's got to come together and show you in a win, right, that, hey, things are going in the right direction.
I did not know that stat, JP, and funny enough, the only loss was to one of the other teams because JMU beat North Carolina this weekend. So, again,
how about
games
that? They put 70 on Carolina. I didn't see that coming.
In like 55 in the first half, or it was.
Yeah, I think it was 53 in the first half, and
JMU.
we
might
played
be all right.
JMU, and they are pretty good, and we played Carolina, and I didn't see the Dukes going in there putting 70 on them, but. And JMU's going to play Gardner Webb, and there's a lot of crossover in our first 4 games with the opponents that we've had.
Man, North Carolina does such a better job of that than Texas, ensuring those regional games get played. I love it. That's a whole different show that we can complain about. Intrastate rivalry.
The Aggie there, yeah.
Hey, I'll say I did want to ask you, Matt, as kind of this team tries to figure it out and work through it in progress, is there one or two things that you think they might be able to lean on this weekend when it comes to trying to find a way to win?
Well, if they can kind of take that next step in the running game, I think that, Carolina moving the ball, if they can help their defense and just, not put the defense in the field as much as they can. This defense is talented enough to play, I think, with anybody in the league. We've got to score some points. We haven't had a game where we've just gone out there and put up 25 or 30 points. At some point, you want to see that. So, I'm looking at that in the running game this week. If they can keep it going, get some first downs, keep possession, find a way to get Henry Rutledge involved, and then take some shots downfield, no matter who the quarterback is. And then we got to be able to, on the defensive side, if we can get to the quarterback this week, our edge rushers, Clowney and Stonehandy, they're pretty talented. They have NFL, ability. Now, whether or not they play at the next level, who knows? But they've got that kind of ability. If we can finally get some pressure on the quarterback and force some turnovers, which we really haven't done the last couple of weeks, that'll be a big thing to watch out for too.
Hey, brother, thanks for the time. Hopefully we get breakfast Saturday if our schedules can line up. And it occurred to me while we were chatting, I remember you don't like to get the new phones. So once you get in the modern technology and update, you don't have a phone 20 years old. Maybe we'll do this in the future, but.
I got a new one last year, but as soon as I got it, I dropped it and it cracked.
Oh, okay.
It does have a nice big crack in it, but it does work. I don't know how a lot of the features work, but it does work. And I'm not sure if you've seen the weather forecast. There's a hurricane coming this way, so hopefully there's no weather delays in getting out of town. There was some talk of us leaving early, but I don't think that's going to happen now. So a lot of rain and wind in Charlotte on Friday. And, of course, I don't think we'll have an issue getting there at some point on Saturday. But Atlanta's going to get hit pretty hard. I'm laughing because my partner, my sideline reporter, Bobby Rosinski, doesn't like to fly. So this could be a fun trip for him. It's going to be a little bumpy.
Nice and cozy when you land. I guess y'all land over at Hobby. Pretty short drive over, but it'll be nice.
Sunny and 90, right? Sunny and 90.
And come into the land of
least.
Good barbecue instead of that Carolina trash barbecue that y'all call good. But
I'm still wearing my hat. You took me to lunch a couple of years ago. That place is really good.
We went to Truth, right? There in the Heights.
Yes.
Truth barbecue, Matthew.
That was very good. Yep.
Good choice.
So if you want to do breakfast or like an early lunch with barbecue, just your choice.
Okay. I'll ask Uncle Bob too what he thinks. So
Make
So
sure
wherever
y'all are
Bob
both
wants to
awake
go.
for the broadcast.
yeah.
Well, hey, last week, somehow we pulled this off. So I was with the Charlotte Knights in Syracuse, New York to finish our baseball season. And I had to get from Syracuse to Bloomington, Indiana, which is really not that easy to do. There's not a lot of flights. Then the Big Ten Network decided to lay at noon. So, of course,
Oh.
I had to really be there on Friday. And then, we're at Learfield School like yourself. My boss was making the trip, and he scheduled dinner for us at St. Elmo's, which is the oldest steakhouse in Indiana. It's great. One of my favorite places. The shrimp cocktail is fantastic. So I was not going to miss that dinner. So I'm looking at all my flight options, and there was really only one option that didn't leave me with like a 7-hour layover somewhere. And that was to leave Syracuse at 5:30 in the morning through Detroit into Indianapolis, and I'd get there about 10:30. Well, the night before, the Charlotte Knights didn't finish up until about 11 o'clock. I got to bed about 11:30, was up at 3, made it to the airport, got there. And then, of course, we played the early game on Saturday, which means getting up again at 6:30 in the morning. But somehow we made it through the night, and I didn't call anybody the wrong name or anything like that. But it was a very long day. And let me just say, I slept a long time on Sunday.
You earned it. You earned it. And Matt, well, I'll attest to this. Matt will be wearing sleeves on his broadcast coming up on Saturday. Coach Poggi may not be, but Matt will. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Hey, I always appreciate you guys. Ode on the Biff Poggi sleeves. If you go back and look at video at the first 2 games of the year, he was in a button-down polo, tucked in nice shorts and a belt. Not sure what happened, but he's gone back to his comfy attire, which is the coach's shorts and the cut T-shirt. But he did it. He had a couple of polos, so you never know. He might surprise you and come out in sleeves on Saturday.
Okay. This is the kind of content folks need. This is what we need to know. Cool. Well, thank you,
guys,
brother. Good luck. Get that phone fixed. Maybe this time next year we'll do video, but if not, that's fine too. Thank you, brother. See you soon.
Take care, guys.
See you. See, that's how you do it. That's how you do an interview. Matt, see.
There you go. Got to check. Is Charlotte on the schedule next year? I feel like we've played them every year, it seems, but
Can you let me worry about this schedule first?
yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, you know what? Unless this is a typo, I'm reading that we host them again. Could that be possible?
I mean, it's possible. Who knows who's going to be in the conference next year?
Because it says we host UAB, Charlotte, ECU, and Temple. We just host ECU last year, but go to Tulsa, UTSA, Memphis, another chat. It's an off-season pod, but
There's like a 30% chance that entire schedule is thrown in the trash by the time we get to like November. And
now why you got to do that? Let's see. I'm usually the negative Nelly here. I'm the no fun guy.
I don't even know if that's negative. I'm just saying. Who knows? Haven't you heard Rice is playing in the Pac-12 next year? That's a longer conversation. We're not going there.
Yeah.
I
did ask Coach about. I asked Coach something similar on Monday. He was he knew pretty early. It was kind of bunk. He sourced it out from his end. So, and then the statement came the following. Is it left hand? Yeah, Tuesday, I guess, that it was official, or that was Monday afternoon actually when that came down. So
it's all running together.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I'm not gonna. I've been telling people, please, let's stick with road trips to West Point and Charlotte and New Orleans, and avoid road trips to Pullman, Washington, and Corvallis, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
No offense.
These opinions do not reflect the opinions of Rice Athletic. Disclaimer. Yeah.
Blame it on the roost. That's fine.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, land the plane now that we're back in Houston and have gotten here safely. Closing thought, request, opinion, statement, edict, decree, musing. The floor is yours, sir. What do you feel about this game coming up on Saturday?
A wide open canvas, huh? What do we have? 4 seconds left to wrap it up. I think Charlotte is a lot better than folks think. judging by that number I gave you, 12-1 with the opponents, it doesn't always mean much, but you look, I mean, they played 2 power schools. Yes, North Carolina had its troubles against Jimmy Madison, but they're better than you think. And lest I remind you and get into finger-wagging territory, what happened last time Charlotte was here? I blacked out for a second. What did I say? Like that was not a pretty sight.
Did that game happen?
Yes, it was.
I think it's been erased from history.
It was very unexpected for the uninitiated. Charlotte had just made a coaching change from your boy, blanking Will Healy.
Yeah, there you go.
They had the coaching change, and Charlotte came in and they dominated that game. My long way of answering what you asked is they've got to find a way to get the football moving in the right direction. They've had good success. You remember the Ari Broussard game a few years ago? He had a career high. It was a $186. And our guy Dean Connors last year, something about that Richardson turf maybe, he had 184 yards. So they've got to find a way to get the ground game going. For context, Coach was mentioning, I did some numbers. I didn't bring this up to him in the question, but Rice has really struggled in FBS competition running the football, and they've only scored 12 points per game in their 3 FBS games. They've been chasing, not getting chased. So how do they do that? They've got, if they win the toss, they've said they're going to defer. They've got to run the football. A Biff Poggi pound of the table. You do it 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It was iconic. They've got to run the football. I tell you all that. They've got to find a way to run the football. EJ Warner looked better. I wonder if there's going to be more tempo. We talked about that some during the week, but that doesn't happen if you don't set up the table by running the football.
Yeah, I agree on all points. And the only thing I'll add is that this team right now, Rice football, is not at a point where they can overlook anybody. I think it's pretty fair to say that this is the worst team remaining on Rice's schedule. They might be better than 1-3, but you look at the big hitters coming up, like you got road trips. You got to go to Memphis. You got to go to Tulane. Navy's coming here for homecoming. And man, you saw what they did to Memphis this weekend. Like, it does not get any easier. So you cannot afford to overlook this game. Like, they always give the cliched, let's go 1-0 this week. And man, I get it, but like, for real, like, do not think about, I don't want the players or coaches to be considering what they're having for dinner on Saturday night or where they're getting breakfast on Sunday morning. Just win this game. That is my humble request.
Okay. You're in favor of winning. Okay.
Yeah. Just put that on the record. Matthew Bartlett likes winning, does not like not winning. Official
I'm going to
statement.
pass that around to the all-around Patterson here.
Yeah, they don't do this for us, but I tell them I wouldn't mind. But hey, this is fun. As always, we will be back for the next run. The schedule marches on no matter what happens this Saturday. But as mentioned, we will be happier sadder probably based on the outcome. But we'll be here, man. One way or another, talking Rice football till we're blue in the face. Guess that's fitting. Gray in the face doesn't really work.
Yeah, navy blue in the face.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you all for sticking with us. We appreciate it. We enjoy getting to do this with y'all, hearing from y'all. Let us know what you like. Say hi. Shout out to the Piercies for talking to JP. I did not see them on Saturday, but I'm sure they were there.
Well, see, I'm a man of the people.
Around the crowd too. Yeah,
I'm a man of the people. I go out with the fans. I mean, you elite
Thank you guys.
riders.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Down in literally a concrete bunker for post game with Bloomer, and this was at an Army base.
Very fortified there.
Never a dull moment. We'll be back next week. Thank you guys so much. Rice Fight.
Never dies, baby. Never.